Greetings. Hi. Hello. Welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube page. I'm Fire Lotus the Witch. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that bell icon and the subscribe. That way you get all the notifications. Although here recently, not just going to be upfront with you, YouTube, you need to work on when you send out the notifications, because I attempted to go live the other day and everybody received the notification 30 minutes after I had already been live, and it did not last that long. But anyways, this is going to be hopefully my second attempt at successfully talking about tarot and oracle. I have a video, but I have not published it yet because I kind of went off onto a little rant. So let's get into it. All right, so we have tarot. This is just one of the many decks that I have, but this is the deck that I read a lot of people with. And then we have my OG deck. By the way, before you go, these are used cards, okay? This is the deck that kind of, I always say, that started it all. This was the deck that helped me realize that I can do a hell of a lot more than I originally thought I can. And then we have one of my all-time favorites, which I have reviewed, which is the Practical Magic Inner Witch Oracle. And they also have a Practical Magic Inner Witch Tarot. They are absolutely amazing. I won them in a giveaway. These are these. Now, these are actually based off the movie and the books. Yes, there are many books in the series. Go check that out. And yes, I'm hoping that they're going to give us a part 2 of Practical Magic. But anyways, let's get into tarot and oracle. All right, so the primary one, the most question I get asked is, what is the difference between tarot and oracle? Obviously, versus the size. So tarot, they are 70. Let me check that. Okay, I was correct. There are 78 tarot, and those are broke into two major categories, the major arcana and the lower arcana. That's also broke down more into swords, chalices, pentacles, let's retry that. Wands, cups, swords, and pentacles. Now, depending on the deck that you get, depending on the theme of that deck, they may not necessarily be those names, but the majority of the times, that's what they represent. Wands represent fire, creativity, passion, and action. Cups represent water, emotion, relationship, and intuitiveness. Swords represent air, intellect, challenges, and conflict. And pentacles represent earth, material aspects, finances, and practical matters, okay? I did just Google that, okay? Now, anyways, we have the major arcana and then we have the lower arcana. The major arcanas are going to be the Hierophant, Judgment, let's see, we have the Star, we have the Sun, we have the Hermit. So, those are going to be the major ones. And those, depending on who you ask, are kind of like... Okay, I wanted to check everything I'm about to say. They represent significant life events, major turning points, and universal human experiences. That also is depending on what type of reading you're doing, how many cards, what the spread is, so forth and so on, okay? So, then we have the Oracle, okay? Now, this particular Oracle deck, and I'm going to go back to tarot in a minute, this particular Oracle deck is my absolute favorite because it does not come with a book. It's just the cards, and as you can tell, it is a picture, a name or a number, and 1 to 2 words. That's it. That is completely it. You're like, Lotus, why would you want a deck like that? This deck, and if you are out there and you are thinking about developing a deck, this is just an amazing idea to kind of think on. So this deck, also, you can actually check out the full episode of the interview of me interviewing this amazing deck and the creator of them. They're also an amazing tattoo artist. They created it because they had already created a tarot deck and they read cards themselves. And with tarot, due to the fact that there's 78 of them, it's really fucking intimidating for somebody to do for the very first time because tarot has all different types of readers. You can have the reading as they've memorized the meaning, they understand the symbology, and they interpret that, right? Then you also have the more intuitive readers where they do fully understand the cards, but they then will be able to take that intuition and to be able to intuitively direct it towards you and in your life. you can break that down in so many different ways. There are so many different types of tarot decks. There are tarot decks that are based off astrology, numerology, color theory, you name it, you can find one. And depending on how that deck is, and depending on how the deck is created, is typically depending on how they're read. But at the end of the day, it depends on the reader, all right? With this deck, they realized that going into it, so this is this amazing deck that was created. And I absolutely love it. This was the deck that I realized, oh shit, wait, there's more to this than I ever thought. I was never really fully drawn to tarot. I was always drawn to Oracle. But as a witch, there's this unspoken pressure that like, oh, you're a witch? Where's your tarot deck? You see what I'm saying? Now, my very first tarot deck was a the very first one was a weird one that I bought from Hot Topic or Spencer's. And it was the basic of the basic. The most tarot decks that people are going to refer you to is the Rider-Waite deck. And then the second one was a very vampiric, gothic, heavy gothic deck. But that was an advanced deck, which is also why if you were going to go out and get a tarot deck, pick it yourself, okay? There's this rumor or whatever you want to call it that goes around that's like, oh no, your tarot deck is supposed to be gifted to you for the very first time. That is bullshit, okay? Because that's what happened to me. My ex gifted it to me and I loved the artwork. I loved the deck, but I could never fully connect to it due to the fact that I discovered that it also is heavily based on astrology and knowing how to tie in the astrology to it. So they created this deck with only having, there are 47 cards in the deck, and it's it. So this deck teaches you to teaches you to literally interpret it with your intuition. That is important when it comes to psychics, when it comes to mediums, when it comes to readers. The most important thing as the reader themselves is you need to have confidence in your ability to read those cards. So another thing, if you are a reader or if you go to a reader, a professional reader, two things I do have to squeeze in here. If you go to a reader and you discover that they are using AI, you can do that yourself, okay? You can literally get your tarot deck, write it down, go to one of these AI things and say, hey, for love, I drew this, this, and this. They will break it down as much as AI can, okay? And yes, that is a thing. I was on a platform and actually saw a creator have like this little AI handheld device and was literally pulling the cards, taking a picture, and the AI was reading it off. That is not a reading, okay? You can do that with Google, okay? Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Now, if you go to a reader and they stop and they're like, hey, let me go check something really quick, and they pull a book, do not hate them for that, okay? They are trying to make sure that the reading you are getting is the most authentic reading that you can get, okay? Never hate people who go and check stuff to make sure, just like I've done in this video, to make sure the information that we're giving you is not made up in bullshit, okay? Second thing I wanted to address is some intuitive readers. Some people have it wrong. Intuitive reading is not picking up a card, let's say the Four of Pentacles, and on here, I'm going to get into what type of deck this is. Catching people, property issues, deep-rooted past, problems like this, right? So we're going to go with one that I really know by heart. Okay. They will pick up a card, say it's the World, and it's like, oh my God, your ex is coming back to you. Holy shit, girl. No. That's not intuitive reading, okay? And intuitive reading is not you just make up whatever the fuck you want to that card, especially when it comes to tarot cards, okay? Okay. With that being said, tarot is also not meant to predict the future. It is to give us insight and foresight just like Oracle is, all right? Now, back to the Oracle. Try to find a deck that will help you build your intuition and the confidence you have behind that intuition. All right. So I always suggest go out and get an Oracle deck before you get tarot. But my first Oracle deck, the process that I got, I'm going to try to speed that up too. I used to work at a new hippie store. I absolutely loved it. It was like hippie, herbal, new age, witchy, but you know. And I found this Halloween Oracle deck, and it's the I think it is the Halloween Oracle deck. It breaks down all the things that are in Halloween and like the meaning of it, the history of it. And I would go to this pendulum that I initially also bought and I would ask it, okay, are you ready for me? Did this for almost a year with the pendulum and the Oracle deck. And right as I was about to make a very big life change, I got it, right? fast forward, I moved down here and the book disappeared. Literally, I left it in the middle on a coffee table. We left to go do some errands. I came back. The cards were there. The book was gone. Nobody else was there on the property. That's also the most haunted property I've ever lived. It was a blessing because my partner looked at me and he goes, "You don't need the book. Just read the damn cards." And I'm like, that's not how that works. And he goes, do it. Try it. I was like, all right, fuck it. Voila. That was what literally started to build. I was like, okay, wait, maybe I can do this. And then an amazing friend, I came across this deck thanks to another YouTuber that was advertising about it. I found it. I became obsessed over it. And one of my really, really good friends sent it to me. This is actually my second deck because my first deck has been retired because I use them a lot. All right. Now that I've kind of broke those down, second question I get is, what is the difference between tarot and oracle? The best way that I can describe it is tarot and oracle. The difference is you picking up a book. Okay. A tarot card would be one chapter, right? Just one full chapter. Oracle cards would be the individual pages that make up that entire chapter. Either that or I'm dyslexic and you flip that, okay? But it depends on the reader and it depends on what you're using them for, all right? I personally love Oracle, but again, all Oracle cards are made differently. Now, let's get into the tarot. Would I suggest going out and getting the Rider Right? Yes, 100%, just because that is a deck that kind of was created to learn, and that's what most beginner people learn it on. Now, you also have these newer decks like this one right here, which actually have certain information on the reverse as well. And then it's got yes, no, it's got the elements. It's got chakra points, which I don't really use the term chakra because we're not getting into that. But I don't use the term chakra. I use energy points. So this right here is a really good deck, and or other decks like this. That is really good because it kind of makes it a little bit easier to do. Second one is, okay, now that you have your decks, what do you do? Okay, for one, this is with tarot. When you first get your deck, do not go home and try to give yourself a giant reading because it's going to freak you out, okay? Now, there are some cards in here, the Tower card and the Death card, that freak a lot of people out. For one, none of this stuff is set in stone, okay? Again, foresight and insight, the future is objective. You knowing about the future and you knowing that that could possibly happen could completely change it. Most importantly, if you get the Death card, you're not going to die. Death is not coming to you. It basically means something in some way, shape, or form is coming to a close or coming to an end. The Tower card, in some way, shape, or form, most people, it does spike anxiety, and that is one of the #1 things that I get from people. My partner, he will not let me read cards, specifically tarot. Why? Because like everybody else says, I don't want to know something if it's fucking horrendous and like, oh shit, right? I can't deny that. Tarot cards give me an anxiety too. But at the same time, I have to realize, and you have to realize, that do not turn it into a self-fulfilling prophecy, all right? But in general, the reason you're not going to go home and do this is because, A, you need to interview your deck to figure out what its personality is, including Oracle. Each magical deck you get, whether it's tarot or Oracle, it is going to have its own personality, which will develop over time, all right? Lotus, what happens if I just don't feel a connection to those cards? You got the wrong deck of cards. You can still read them, but they're not fully going to be entwined. And that's nothing you did bad. Trust me, this deck right here, I've had for, I think, almost a year now. Give or take, we'll say 6 months, 6 to 7 months. And I asked it itself. I was like, do you like reading cards for me? And it said no. I was like, all right, do you like reading cards for other people? Yes. So this right here is not a personal deck. This is a deck that I use when I'm on lives and I do yes or no questions. I have a few other decks as well that I will use. But again, all of them have their own personalities. So yeah, now you're going to interview your deck. And you're like, Lotus, how do I interview your deck? For one, you can easily find answers or questions, a list of questions to get, interviewed your deck. But it also has to depend on how you're shuffling them. A lot of people, they tend to just do yes or no questions. Now, there's a question that I recently got that I cannot fully give you an answer to. I believe it's on the person themselves, which is, if you get a yes or no question, that's also a difference. Most Oracle cards do not have a reverse meaning, but it also depends on the creator. All tarot cards do have a reverse meaning, but I do know some people, depending on the type of reading they're doing, they will not use the reverse meaning. And that question was, okay, if I do a yes or no question and it's reversed, but the card is yes, does that mean it's a no? That's up to you. I know some people who's like, no, that we're not using the reverse aspect. I just need a yes or no. And there are some cards in here that have maybe on it. Secondly, you need to intertwine your energy with it. So for one, interviewing it is kind of like the same reason when you get you a pendulum and you kind of got to align it and adjust it. You're asking it basic questions that you already know the answer to. Is the sun shining outside where I'm at right now? Is it raining? Is it snowing where I'm at right now? Questions that you know fully the answer to, those will also help. Another thing is I encourage you to handle them as much as possible. Whether that is just getting the flow of shuffling. There are all different types of shufflers. You do not have to be the ones like on TikTok where it's like, argh. You don't have to. But what I do is I will try to find a bag. I do keep these in a box. This right here is my Oracle bag. It does not have to be a bag like that. You can literally grab an old t-shirt, cut it up, and just fold it. You can use a bandana. So many things you can use them to make sure they're nice and snug and stuff like this. Here's something that nobody told me. If you live in Florida and or the southern states where the humidity gets high, you will have moments where your cards will stick together. Okay? I've heard putting them in the freezer and the refrigerator. I've never done that. What I do, and it's also probably the reason you'll see like that, I will get not incense, specifically culinary sage. I'll get the ashes of that and I'll put them on there and kind of reshuffle them. And it's kind of a process of like washing them, but you're not using water. Again, you're using that powder. And it works. It kind of gets them unstuck. But yeah, humidity can mess up your cards, okay? But outside of that and outside of interview them, handle them as much as possible, okay? You don't always have to ask questions, but just shuffling them, it's going to get your energy intertwined with them. I also like to either have mine right next to me when I go to sleep or securely very wrapped up and up under my pillow. Again, you're trying to do everything you can to intertwine that energy to it. There's also something that I'm not really seeing a lot in the witchy community with tarot cards. You can use these in spell work. I know some people that have a deck specifically dedicated for using it in spell work. And I'm not saying you have to get wax or oil on them, but you can lay them down right next to, or like, say I have a spell right here, you can do them right here, you could do it right here. And what you're doing is using the essence of that card is also aspect of this is what I want from the spell. So say you're doing a justice spell, you would use the justice card. Say you're trying to get somebody, or say you're trying to find balance in your life, you would use the Tempers card. I would suggest the Tempers card. But yeah, you need to interview them. Okay, Lotus, what happens if I do get a deck and it just does not resonate with me? None of the answers come out clearly and it's just all confusing. For one, I have to ask, are you taking yourself outside your perspective? So as a reader of both Oracle and Tarot, I can read people to filth. But at the same time, I do not read my own cards, especially when it comes to Oracle. And I'm not alone. There are a lot of readers who will not and cannot read their own cards because primarily I think it's we can't take ourselves out of our heads enough to actually view it from an outside perspective. Do not go into, if you go to a reader, okay, and you get upset because you did not hear every single thing you thought you needed to hear, that's not their job. That's not their point, especially when you're doing your own readings, all right? There are some people that believe that if you already have a preconceived idea and you just want that yes to be verified, your deck sometime will give you that. Does that mean that that's actually what it was? No. You got to think. Sometimes our minds are very strong. But I've seen people go to amazing readers and they bash the hell out of them because they're like, they didn't tell me anything that they were supposed to tell me. Don't go into readings thinking that you're going to get all the answers you want. That's not what tarot or oracle is for. Now, I've heard some people argue, oh, well, you can get more information from a tarot card than you can an oracle deck. Yes, no, it depends on the reader. I'm extremely detailed. When I read people, one card could be up to 20 minutes worth of information. And again, it's an image in 2 words. It depends on the reader, all right? Now, this kind of goes with teaching about witchcraft. Before you get to a point where you are offering money for readings, have free readings. I did. When I very first started to even offer readings to the public, I was like $5 or $10. Okay, you need experience on reading those cards before you start charging people $60 an hour, okay? And yes, there are some readers out there that will charge $60 an hour. I know some readers who will charge $25 for like 5 minutes. which is absolutely insane, but that's not to me, you know? But yeah, research the hell out of your readers as well. And I do mean research. Now, another typical question that I get is, can you allow other people to touch your deck? And that is completely up to you. Okay. Now, with me, I don't, obviously I have agoraphobia, like a shut-in witch. So the points and times that I have read for other people, there's only certain people that I have the feeling, yeah, it's okay to touch my deck. Other than that, I don't need you to touch the deck because I'm not reading your energy. I'm going to your spirit team, so kind of going behind you and reading your spirits, your ancestors. You're not even reading them as much as they're helping me come through. So no, if you were to come to me for an in-person reading, you would not touch my deck at all. And that has nothing to do with you. It's just the way that I like. There are other people, on the other hand, that will actually ask you, yes, shuffle the cards until you think you're, you know, until you feel done, and then hand them back over. There's nothing wrong. Again, we are all different types of readers. Just like you can go to 8 different authors or 8 different writers, 8 different painters. They're all going to paint differently, okay? The same as with this, okay? But I would suggest at least 2 to 3 years before you really start, like, charging $100 and something or some things like that. Ask your friends, hey, I've got a new tarot deck. I want to break them in. Who likes a reading? Okay. Now, I originally started my types of readings on email, and there's nothing wrong with that. Also, I apologize to anybody who did come to me for one of those readings. I know there was a lot of spelling errors, okay? I have dyslexia, and I use speech to text with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The only time that there's something wrong with it is when you're using JATTP or another AI system to just break down what the cards mean and send that over. I'm sorry, that's not reading. Okay, that person that just spent that money to get the reading that you just use AI on can literally do it themselves for free. Okay? That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to start drama or anything like that. It's just there's a lot of weirdness when it comes to the AIs. And yeah, I've even heard of witches doing custom spell work using AI. Okay? I'm just saying, you know. Anyways. But yeah, mess with them. Intertwine with them. Okay? You got to get your energy intertwined. Now, what happens if you do have a deck that just you cannot read? It does not like you. I typically save them. I have multiple decks that I haven't touched in years, and I'm just waiting for that right person to come over or hang out with me, and I'm like, yo, here's your deck. How do you know it's your deck? It's screaming your name. So yeah. Let me know if you have any questions or anything like that. There are a lot of amazing YouTubers that also go over how to break TikTok or how to break tarot cards down and how to learn them. Don't rush, okay? Please, dear God, do not rush. And as much as I have my own feelings about this, when it comes to divination and the types of divinations, there are a lot of different things out there. I've seen people use Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I've seen people use Pokemon cards. I've seen people go out, which I love this idea to a degree, going out and getting the little cards, I can't think of the name of them, the little cards that we used in school to take notes on. They got that and created their own deck. So you do you. But please, if you do, or if you are planning on going to a tarot reader or an oracle reader, please research them. What do I mean by that? Research their reviews, their critics, how long they've been doing it, all this other stuff, okay? But, yeah, and if you would ever like to come to me to get a oracle reading done, send me an email. I'll walk you through the steps to be added to the list. I'm a channeling medium, and that's where this comes in at. So if you do come to me for a reading, it's either going to be a very intuitive reading or it's going to be a channeled message. It just depends on your spirit team. As always, what's your favorite book that you just read? What's the song that you have on repeat? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever been horrified by a reading and then it did not come true, or it did come true? Let me know. It's very weird. But yeah, as always, share this with somebody who may like it, who may know something. And as always, thank you so much. And yeah, bye.